life of Gurudev was a life of silence. That is the gist of it. Silence, deep silence. It becomes very difficult to speak on the surface values of Gurudev's life, because that on the surface it was an ideal of recluse life, of a monk's life, deep in the forests, away from habitation, nothing. From the age of about 11 till the age of about 70, that was his life. But when I look upon it now, what I find is when I look upon it now, what I find is that a life was being designed, an individual life was being designed in deep silence, and it was being designed to be lively, representing silence, so that the coming times of great activity could be infused with that value of silence by this great center of silence which was being developed in remote areas of deep forests and caves, so that liveliness could then pulsate in the time when there will be hardly any silence on this in the active field of life. The need was there because the tempo of life is increasing more and more with all this. The scientific research is everywhere. The surface of life becoming very, very dynamic. Now it was necessary that the inner silence also should become lively. So there was that one individual personality, as if hidden by Mother Nature, to secure the liveliness of that infinite silence deep within the individual life. And when it was made lively and lively and lively, then it started to penetrate in the environment, and then it spread and spread, and now it's going to overtake the whole human race. So my knowledge about Gurudev's life, when I was moving around him and all, it was different, even though I had never had a chance of thinking on his life, because there was no time to think on his life. He was radiating that divine influence. One could only bask in that radiance of the sun of life. It was not any intellectual conclusions or thought, not even that appreciation of his greatness and grandeur and all that. There was no time in the feeling or the heart. Only one was just moving around like iron filing near about the magnet. This way, this way, this way, this way, this way. The whole thing was so perfect and so beautiful. One was just like, what do you say, It's like an iron filing, small, tiny, little bit thing, moving around the magnet as the magnet moves. And it has no control over oneself. And it was this innocent participation in his life that enabled the deeply rooted, inert silent to thrive and pulsate into those living radiations of inner silence. And now here comes the science of being, and that to bring out the art of living. Science of being and art of living. Science of creative intelligence. It developed into science of creative intelligence. The whole purpose to infuse lively silence from within in this increasingly fast tempo of modern life, ultra-modern life. And post-modern life is going to be much more faster and more dynamic. With this dynamism on the surface of life increasing, nature comes to counterbalance this increasing dynamism of life on the surface with increasing dynamic silence at the depth. With meditation, that ever sleeping, ever inert, inner silence becomes lively. We call it infusion of being into the nature of the mind, so that the mind may have liveliness of silence maintained when it is active on the surface. So when we look upon Gurudeva's life, now it assumes a complete meaning. At the time I was living at his feet, this comprehension of time-space value in the character of his personality was not clear. But now it becomes clear when we consider him as an individual and time-space value now, and suddenly the meaningfulness of this event of his life in this long span of time becomes vivid.
As a college student, how did you find Gurudev as a college? You were a college student, and he was in the forest.
And I was asked to complete my studies. And then I did not argue with him, because once I saw him, I know he knows best. And whatever he said was my action. The whole, in the context of the whole time and whole history of human race, Gurudev's life is, we would say, revealing. And a saint's life is not and cannot be viewed from the instances through which it has passed. It's not the instances, it's not the surface value of happenings that constitute their life. It is the liveliness of being that they have lived and they have radiated. That is the real level on which their life was a reality, a living reality. They lived a life on that level of lively being. And lively being is an omnipresent, evenly present everywhere. It's a reality which is omnipresent, evenly present everywhere. Instances here, there, do not much matter, even though they have some significance. Each wave has its own height and depth and base and crest. But it's water, it's only the water. It's some high, some low, but it's the water. Like that, some instances here, some instances here, there, like that. They are just like up and down of the waves, different waves. But the reality of the waves is in the character of the ocean. So the real life of a saint is on the level of being, which makes that ocean of life rise up and down in the waves of instances. We appreciate the instances and we know the real value of them when we are able to have the vision of the ocean. So it's on the level of consciousness that the life of Gurudev is and can be appreciated and lived. We partake of his real life on the level of being, where the home of knowledge is reverberating, pulsating home of all knowledge. It's level of pure consciousness. From there, we could really peep into the reality of, from the window of consciousness, we peep into the reality of the life. A life which has lively being. A life where every activity is a wave of eternity, a wave of being. So just as the full value of knowledge is appreciated on the level of consciousness, the reality of full life, complete life, is appreciated on that level, which is the omnipresent level of life, on the level of being. That is why the saint's life is not really comprehended in its completeness on the level of instances. What happened, what happened, what happened, what happened. Any instance will be such a limited thing, you say, oh, it's not worth even mentioning. Because what does it expose? It exposes so little and harms so the wholeness of life. That is why it becomes completely sort of ridiculous to go into the details of what happened here and what happened from between 1940 and 50, what happened. So many things have happened, but they have all happened on the level of non-happening. So all this happening has a very little meaning to it. Getting into the detail of the happening is a kind of jar to the wholeness of the reality of life.
Did you have a purpose for living the recluse way of life? Did you have, no. Did when you left that way of life, the first months after leaving, did it take you a while to get actually started? I mean, how did you get started into activity from that way of life? What were the first?
You mean how the movement started?
Well, what was the thought in your mind at that time?
At what time? When I started the movement?
When you started moving. I mean, when you left northern India and you went.
I went to south.
I'd heard that you made a speech at a big festival and mentioned world peace, and a lot of people there backed you up so that you were able to leave India.
No, all that followed. But
I'm glad they backed you up. I'm glad.
I'm thinking what to tell you.
Whatever you want.
My life was so absorbed in him that it was just that thing moving like a, that iron filing with the magnet. And when the influence of the magnet is there, iron filing just moves with the magnet like that, like that. And what happens to the iron filings if the electromagnet loses its electricity? Then the iron filing is left to the atmospheric influence. Same thing happened to my life. I just retired in the Himalayas and was just there quietly, not aiming at quietness, not aiming at anything, just it was natural there. Then after about 2 years or some such time, some kind of feeling came in the mind, and that I should go to Rameshwaram. Rameshwaram is the temple of Shiva, India. And there was one very good saint in that area, about 90 years old, and he had done such great austerities, and he became very close to me. He was also a life celibate, 90-year-old, and his hair was falling about 2-3 feet on the ground, and quite a tall figure, 6-7 feet high, and the hair like that falling on it. This is how they do. And then he used to come sometimes where I was. And then one day I told him that, how about going to Rameshwaram? He didn't reply. There in Uttakashi, it's a common feeling without a talk about it, that beyond the boundary of Uttakashi down towards south, it's a mud. And during that time, he became very close to me, and he knew that I was really a recluse, and nothing to do with the world, no thought of the world. So he appreciated me on that value, and I liked him. I didn't know for what, but there was a good feeling with me. And sometimes he used to come. One day he came completely shaved. And I was sitting facing the Ganges, and from that side he was coming, and as he came nearer and nearer, it became more evident that probably it is he. And when he came near, I got up and received him. I said, what have you done to all this? He said, this was one more possession. I was feeling the weight of it, so I thought, get rid of it. That kind of completely nothing to do with anything.
Innovative.
I said, it's all right, but you must be feeling very light and uncomfortable, because that weight was in nature to have that long hair. And mean, you'd come and you'd sit maybe in 2 hours to speak a few words, maybe 5, 10 words here, there, something, because there was nothing to talk anyway. But divine was not to be discussed. There was no question of the world, no plans to be made, no activity to be undertaken. Nothing, you just come and sit. Ah, yes, come and sit. So when I said, what do you think of Rameshwaram? He just as if didn't hear it. And then after a few weeks, again I happened to mention Rameshwaram. There was no question of thought about Rameshwaram or anything, because it was a sort of a fulfilled platform for thinking or feeling or something. I quite remember about 6-8 months passed like that, and during that time, I think 2-3 times I happened to just mention whenever a thought came in his presence, mention to him. And after about 8-9 months, when I mentioned to him once that for the last so many days, this thought keeps on coming to Rameshwaram, and don't know what to do with it. This kind of recluse life, huh? Completely what to do with this thought, just like that. Then he thought that probably I am not aware of the tradition of saints in the valley of Uttarkashi. Because I was there only about 2 years or something. So being new there, then he thought he should tell me what the old saints in the area think of such thoughts. Then he told me that in Uttarkashi the Ganges flows like that, and there is a river here, its tributary, and another river here. And this is the boundary of Uttarkashi, from this river to this river on the Ganges bank. He said, do you know you must have crossed that river when you came? I said, yes. He said, beyond that, the saints of this area don't like even to think. And it's just, it's mud, so we don't think about it. So that was the area, the boundary of Uttarkashi. What to say of the whole boundary of India, passing from north to south. And the Rameshwaram is in south, way down south. And then I didn't know how to manage with this conception of Uttarkashi and about the thought coming up. There was absolutely no, I quite remember, absolutely no purpose attached to this thought of Rameshwaram. I didn't know myself why the thought was coming. Nothing. Rameshwaram, no. I didn't know what I will do when I go there, and what for I was going there. But because it is one of the main temples of pilgrimage, people take delight and pride in having visited that temple in south, visited some temple in the north in the Himalayas, some in the east, west. 4 centers of pilgrimage. Religiously people like to go there and there and there and there and there. And because from long time the travels across the country here and there. It was a great adventure, very great adventure, lack of means of communication and all. Yet people take that great traditionally great journeys, call it pilgrimage. So anyone wanting to go to these temples means it's an ordinary thing, everyone likes to go. So there was, but this was a conception in the air of Indian life. But in my mind, if someone asked what for I want to go, I had no answer, nothing, no other thought. But just this idea of Rameshwaram. And when I mentioned to him a few weeks later sometime, he said, I think you have been thinking of it for so long. Why not get rid of this thought? And get rid of this thought means go there and come back and never think of it again. And when he said like that, this purpose of not returning or doing what, it didn't come to my mind. But at least he responded to that idea which was coming to my mind, go to Rameshwaram. Then I went to Rameshwaram, arrived there sometime in the night. The temple people are in a habit of extending their courtesy, organizing a comfortable sort of stay for saints. It's their tradition. So I was received in the same way and given a room somewhere. And that happened to be one of the very good places in that vicinity, facing the sea. I stayed there. I was going to temples morning, evening, afternoon. It's a very delightful atmosphere, good. And I was doing it. After about 3 weeks, and I heard from the local people there is another temple still south of Rameshwaram. It's a Kanyakumari. After about 3 weeks, a thought came, why not go there also? Then I went there and stayed near the temple, going to the temple morning, evening. After about 3 weeks, just a very faint thought, I quite remember. When I was coming after the evening bath and then going for meditations, it's a faint impulse. And it was a very strange kind of feeling, but it was so tender and so gentle that came so naturally. Just a thought. Now I should go back. But before going back, will it not be good to give the blessings of the Himalayas to the people in this area? What the form of blessings, what does it mean? Nothing. Just a faint thing inside. Why not give the blessings of the Himalayas to the people in this area before going back? And in about 3 or 4 days, I started and went to the nearest town there. This was starting to go up towards back to Takashi. Went there, and again reached there in the night. And it's a tradition there. Saints generally come from here and there, and people are in a habit of receiving them. So someone received me and put me in some place. And in the morning, I asked where the temple and all that big temple. So early morning, about 5 o'clock, I was going to the temple, walking on the street. Always the habit had been to be all self-sufficient while walking like that. Nearing the temple, I found someone was following me from behind. And near about the temple, the person came in front and he said, "Do you speak?" I said, "I do, but do you mean lecturing? I don't." He said, "You seem to be from north." I said, "Yes." "Where you are staying?" I told him through some signs where I was staying, didn't know the address where I was staying. He knocked the door about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And he knocked at the door. I was surprised who it can be. And here was that man. When I opened the door, he said, "7 lectures have been prepared for you." And absolutely no idea of any lecturing or lecture or nothing. And then he wouldn't wait for my reaction. He continued to say, "Now I have to give them the 7 titles on which you will be speaking." And it's be a 1-week program. So it was strange. Absolutely strange, completely out of the blue he comes, and he said, and he mentioned to me the best, most reputed place is the library. But I didn't know what that place was or what it meant. But he was delighted to mention the name of that library. It's in the middle of the town there. And I had no option. And it just came like a very natural flow, like that, one step after the other. And I said, "What lecture?" I never thought of it. He said, "Tell me something, tell me anything." And I dictated him 7 topics. Not knowing what I was going to speak on the topics. But I thought it will be good to speak on this and this and this and this and this. And speaking had been quite a foreign thing. He took the thing and he started to go. I said, "Leave a copy with me." He left a copy with me. And I went and sat there, talked to the people here and there. After 7 days, the main librarian, he came and he followed me from the library where I was staying. And he told me that he was not in a habit of going to the lectures. But he was very keen when I was speaking. He never came to the audience. He was still in his own office, but stopped the work and was listening to me. I said, and he was a very wise man, speaking 15 languages, And he said that I was not in a habit of going to lectures because whenever in his early days he went to any lecture, he found there was no connection between the lecture and the lecturer. He's a very wise man. What lecturer says and what he lives, there was no connection between the speech and the speaker. So you are not in a habit of going. I say it's good that you enjoy. The press caught the whole thing up. Right from the first day they gave such wide publicity, and I knew this only after about 7 days. Every day the audience was doubling up. And I was completely unaffected by anything because this was a sort of passing time to go. The whole thing was so gentle and gradual and automatic, completely automatic. Just like the river flows. And it doesn't have to make an effort to flow because the slope is already available. It flows. Just like that, effortless flow of life. And then towards the end of the week, some people came from different parts. This is Kerala, state of Kerala. And this was in Trivandrum, the capital of Kerala. And the papers wrote such huge things about the whole thing. And people came from north and made the program for north. It just happened that I went from town to town, like that. And the whole thing was so automatic. It was about 6 months we spent there. And then suddenly I thought, no, I think I should go. The people in that province made such big festivities, kind of. They organized a big yajna and all that. From this Shankaracharya's tradition. So there was a big, huge thing. There is still a book of that whole, they printed a book. And they called it Beacon Light of the Himalayas. And when I sometimes see the thing, the whole thing that we see in the movement now, it's nothing different than what that book records. As time goes on, it looks up as if it's just the more expanded commentary of what that book contains. Same message, same thing. And it just grew and grew and grew and grew. Then I went to north and east and west maybe about 2 years. And there was no question of going back to Uttakashi. Then 2 years, and then came 89th birthday of Gurudev, something. People wrote to me from Madras, come here, we'll make a good celebration for Gurudev's birthday, and what you would like to be his birthday. I said, call a conference, seminar of spiritual luminaries. A good word. Spiritual luminaries seminar. They organized a 3 days festival. It was a big, huge audience. Speaking third day, I reviewed this 2 years experience in India, north, south, east, west, and said that this thing is such a simple, natural thing, and it has found to be producing effects in all parts of India, north, south, east, west. They are completely different. Each province has its own language, living values are completely different, everything is different. So when in this small area of the world where culture is different, this has produced effect. Why can't we spiritually regenerate the whole world through this technique? And without a thought, I just said it. And the clappings went for about 2-3 minutes, about 10,000-15,000 people in the open air evening meeting. This was about 11 o'clock in the night. And when I just said this, why, when this works, and it has proved that it works, why can't we spiritually regenerate the whole world? These words, spiritually regenerate the whole world, came completely automatically, just from the review of what has been experienced in these two years in different parts of India. And the clapping, and when the clappings were going on with such outrageous enthusiasm, I looked to the secretary of this seminar. I said, can you retain the pandal? We call it pandal, the tent. All the big huge tents are created, and then they make decorations with all electricity and all that. I said, can you maintain the pandal for a day more? He said, don't worry, for management, you go ahead what you want to say. And when the clapping stopped, I said, when this is the response from Mother Nature on the thought of spiritually regenerating the world through this practice, will inaugurate a world movement, will inaugurate spiritual regeneration movement here tomorrow evening. And there was another set of clappings for 5 minutes. There was such a joyous feeling in the whole atmosphere, suddenly rose, as if every heart was just enlivened with this, just with this thought. And when I was coming home, surrounded by all those organizers, they said, if you had this thing in mind, you should have told us in the beginning. We would have organized on a bigger scale. I said, I didn't know. It was just, the whole plan came spontaneously as a review of activity and as a possibility for the world. And when it came, it was responded well by the environment, and then it must have a second step of development. So we'll inaugurate there. Next day I inaugurated the spiritual regeneration movement. And this was the 1st of January, 58 or 59, something like that. First it was inaugurated. And I was moving from there. About 6 months I moved about. I was in Bangalore. One morning I was there for about 4 days only. And one morning I thought, early morning after meditation, the thought came to review how much time has gone since the movement was started and how much has been accomplished. This was with Ram Rao. And I found 6 months have gone, and so many people have come in my contact, so many people have been influenced. I didn't have what is the population of the world at that time, but roughly I gauged. And it came out, and the whole thing flashed in the mind within about 5-10 minutes. A sequence of logic like that. Say what time it will take to to reach the whole world. And I found it will take about 200 years. Then with this 200 years, I thought, no, some tactics should be changed. Because 200 years, nothing would happen. The whole life will be wasted without achievement. And then I thought, what more can I do? After all, I'm going from place to place, talking to the people. What more can be done? I said, no, go to the most developed country, whatever is the most developed country in the world. Go there. And the logic behind this was that the country has advanced more than other countries because the individual must be in a habit of adopting new things. This I calculated to be the cause of most advanced nature of a country. If the individual is in a habit of adopting new things, then the country keeps on advancing. And because I knew this is such a simple, innocent and very beneficial thing, once adopted, it will just grow. Without any detailed knowledge of the countries, two countries were in my mind, they are the most advanced countries probably, America and Germany. Without absolutely any knowledge of the details, what America is and what Germany is, and an educated man is expected to know what America is and what Germany is. But the whole thing was blank in my mind, no details, because I was not interested in geography of the world. That indifference to everything was so deeply grounded. But this was the idea, America and Germany. I said, all right, let's go to America. And the people there must be in a habit of adopting new things. And this will be adopted there. And from there, it will spread in the world. So I came here and the whole story started. And then when I arrived in Germany, really I started to initiate. First 100 initiation in one day was in Stuttgart in Germany. I gave a talk in the night, and one thing was in my mind. From the beginning of the movement, I thought I should establish a center wherever I go, and having established a center, then I should go to the next place. Then I should go to the next place. This means ensure success in one place and then go to the other. This was the fundamental plan in my mind when I started to come out from India. First country out of India was Burma, Rangoon. One businessman, he did this whole thing. He was the only one man who received me at the airport. And 3 days I stayed in Rangoon, initiated about 200 people. Just one talk was enough to keep me engaged for 24 hours like that. And when I came there, was about to leave, the whole airport was flooded with all kinds of Burmese. The government officials, military people in their dress, police, and the monks of various order, Burmese, Buddhist monks, and the population of Burmese and Indians, the whole port was flooded with the whole. Then it rang in my mind, well begun is half done. This was the first arousing reception out of India, so I thought it was quite all right. Like that, it went on. By the time I came to Germany, I started to initiate 100 people every day. In England, I stayed about 6 months, and good people were coming, intelligent people were coming and appreciating what I was saying, but they were not coming to start meditation. Very ordinary kind of responsible kind of people were coming and starting meditation, but responsible class was not responding. 6 months, and I got fed up one day, and I thought, no, I should, let's try another policy. Till then the policy was establish a center and then go to a new place, establish there and then go. I said, no, let's adopt a new policy. Go to Germany, give only 3 days program in each place. And one lady in Germany, she organized from her place in 10 places. She got the posters printed and sent, and halls booked and everything, publicity in advance. 10 days, 3 days. And this formula worked faster than the other one. In a hurry, every place was producing about 200 to 300 people, like that. In 6 weeks, 10 places, all the biggest towns in Germany were having about 200 to 300. And then we called a German Congress of SRM at the end of the tour. It was such a great, grand success. From there, the response for the teacher training courses was so great. People just started to come like that. But that was the result of the changed policy. Don't stay for a long time in one place, otherwise people think, oh, he's staying, so they don't move. I was required to go back to Sweden within about a month's time. Sweden responded so greatly. When all these preparations for European tour was being made in England, one Englishman said to me, if you can, when he heard that I was going to Sweden, he said, if you can establish team in Sweden, then I'll think that you can establish it everywhere. I said, what about Sweden? Tell me what is the speciality. He said, people in Sweden are more sophisticated. And in his words, he said, sophisticated means more conservative than even English people. I said, this is good. Conservative means they are self-sufficient and they don't want any infringement from outside, so it must be good. But tell me, what is the situation about mental hospitals in the country? He said, there is a big cry for increase of mental patients, and more hospitals are needed, and more beds are demanded every time. And suicidal tendencies are maximum in Sweden, in the world. I said, then on the surface of Swedish culture, it needs TM. It's very obvious. The need is there. The response from Sweden was so great. Within about 1 month, I had to go there twice. Because when I was going to India, I told in Sweden, if you have 100 people to be initiated, I'll come any time before I go to India. And within about 2 weeks, they found 100 people and called me back. My repeated visit to Sweden within a month excited the English people. They said, oh, it must be good because Sweden has responded so well to it. Then I had to detain my going to India for about 2 months, and I was brought back to England, and there the people started, really good people, on whom I could establish a movement in England. So it was after establishing in Sweden that England responded, and since then they have been doing very well. So this story of the movement is just the story of a river which flows, makes great headway with great speed without doing anything because the slope is already available. Just like that, like that, like that, like that. Never any obstacle or no question of anything. Just I was rejoicing on the way of success, somewhere less high, somewhere more high. This is how it went and went and went and went, and brought this time for the world plans. And in the same thrust, the world plan will be implemented. Everywhere will be the teachers of TM, and the whole knowledge will thrive. There were two things before me. I had to make an option. Either dig deeper into the expressions of knowledge, make commentaries of Brahma Sutras and Yogas and Vedas and Upanishads, or spread the technique. What I thought was, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Whatever little expressions, maybe broken expressions I have about the technique and the reality, let it be shared with all the people in the world. Whatever time is available in the midst of all this, keep on doing something if at all it is possible. Otherwise, the expression does not matter how lucid or how loose the expression of the message is, but what matters is the practice which should be made available to the people. So I didn't bother to write any book or anything, and I remember Dr. Hislop introducing me sometime in that in a very good place in Los Angeles. Some well or something. It's a good hall, and he introduced spiritual regeneration movement has no literature, and it does not need any literature. It emphasizes practice, no literature necessary. People have read enough, and they don't have time to read in these fast-moving days anyway. That is why there are no books, and don't expect any literature. There was not even a pamphlet to introduce TM or anything. He said, listen to what he says and do the practice that he suggests. That time actually, I was suggested indirectly that there is a need of some literature. Just because the movement was not planned, I was just pushed into it, and pushed, I was moving in the direction the pressure allowed. The whole thing was automatic. Never to me occurred that there should be a book or anything. The science of being and art of living never came out of my thought. When India and China started to fight there at the border, I felt that I should go to India. What I would do in that war, I had no part to play in the war. But I said I would go to India. Then the people in Los Angeles gathered around me and suggested one place, it's a war and we don't know what will happen when these two countries both are furious on each other, and so why can't you speak out your thoughts and we'll preserve the whole, at least we'll have the whole thought. So they gave me a quiet place in that area. Some big Sur or where? Arrowhead in that forest, some nice thing, and two, three tape recorders, one downstairs, one upstairs here. So I was moving from place to place, and I was just speaking, just speaking. There was no time to make notes, and I didn't know what to do. I was just speaking, and the whole thing came out. And this is how came out the science of being an art of living. And it was typed, transcribed, and then I went through the transcription twice, and some changes were made. And here is the book, Science of Being an Art of Living. But it was never produced as a need to spread the message. It was under a pressure kind of thing. In 15 days, the whole thing, I just kept on speaking. It did come out to be something nice. The whole situation about the movement, every stage of development was so automatic, and this is the story of the movement. It came all by itself, it spread all by itself, people responded, and different people respond from different directions, different understandings, but the response has been very sincere and genuine, and on that basis the single individual activities in different areas produced the desired effect. Now our desire to have the world plan implemented will produce leaders of the movement, teachers of this knowledge in all parts of the world, and then everyone will have it. So it's the natural fulfillment of the need of our time and the need of all times to come. Communication is at our favor. Quick communications here and there, the world plan. And as it has grown, so hopefully it will grow, and now it will be hard for the human race to remain without enlightenment in each area. More and more teachers are needed. So it will be good for everyone to just flow effortlessly in the direction of the ocean of fulfillment, because the slope is available. The river flows spontaneously because the slope is available. I should have given you more chance for asking more questions.